Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
For a number of years now, we've been teaching the Ignatius exercises, literally a 30-week retreat for people who are courageous and want to engage this. And within the first few weeks of the exercises, the whole concept of sin is disclosed, and the participants are invited to look at the sin in their life. And it may be their personal sin, or it may be the sins of other people that have personally afflicted them. And there's this darkness, and generally we have a few people at that point of the exercises who drop out. They can't face it. They can't face the darkness. They can't face the fact that there's flaws and that they have sinned. They're in total denial. They choose to live in a darkness of a type. And so they drop out of the exercise, and we hope at some point they will courageously engage with the love of God and confront these things, these areas of darkness in their life. And I say this as a preface that once we see the sin in our life and its reality, then we also see the contradiction that God still loves us anyways. The darkness keeps us from opening to His love, which desires to heal us, and yet there is God not willing to violate our free will, waiting for us to come into the light. We are literally in a prison of darkness, one could say. And so an angel comes today in the Acts of the Apostles and liberates the apostles from a quarantine of darkness, if you will. And then we get this verse in the gospel that God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. Have you ever stopped to think how powerful that particular verse is? God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. He loved with a self-giving love by His initiative, even though, as St. Paul would describe, we are still sinners, yet He loves us, and He's pouring out grace and mercy toward us. This was found to be so upsetting to the heavenly court that part of them, a third of the angels, left heaven over this truth, that God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. He was so in love with us and committed to us that a third of the angels left heaven because they couldn't stand being second place to that kind of love. Wow. This is how much God loves you. And then the gospel this morning in St. John goes on to say, God did not send His Son to the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved. This is God's agenda, to save us. And yet, we continue to pose ourselves as self-sufficient children who have decided they no longer need their parents because their parents are being interpreted as oppressive because they wanted to love their children. The gospel goes on to say that whoever believes in Him will not be condemned. In other words, to turn and embrace this love, to admit our sinfulness, but to turn and embrace this love and live in the truth that God loves you that much. And come into the light. Bring the sinfulness, either the personal sins or even the effects and the hurt of sins of other people that have affected us, to bring all these into the light. And yet a third of the angels who left heaven, they want you to remain in the darkness. They don't want you to see this because you continue to be in the darkness and be their prey. And that's the way they like it. But God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. And he did not send his Son into the world to condemn it, but that the world might be saved. And whoever believes in him will not be condemned. Wow, that's a promise. Not only a promise, it's a very definitive statement. Whoever believes in him will not be condemned. It's a promise. Whoever believes in him will not be condemned. And so this morning's gospel calls us to be liberated, be liberated from darkness. And what about this belief? Whoever believes in him. In the gospel, belief implies acting on, not simply saying, oh, he's there. The letter to James says that the devil and his demons believe and they shudder, but it doesn't change anything for them. And so we have to decide whether we're going to believe in darkness or whether we're going to believe in light, the light of the love of Jesus Christ, died on the cross to save us and is now risen from the dead so that his beloved can join him in the bridal chamber of heaven.
Regina Celi, let